Howdy. Welcome, guys, if you're tuning in to the first video of Season 7 from the newly rebranded, previously Laddie Daddies to now the Gallivanting Gallades. We're at our headquarters. We finished up the draft for us about a day ago. I think Mr. At Silverfox here has one more pick left, and then the draft is officially concluded. But our team is done. And I want to talk about it because I have not yet, in all of APDL history, been able to do a team draft recap video, just because it seems like games start all too soon every season. Not in a bad way, but just I don't have enough time to record 2 videos the first week usually. But in this case, we have about a week and a half or 2 weeks until games officially start. So I can get in a draft recap video, which is really awesome, really fun, especially because I'm super hyped for this team. I went in with the mindset of, last time I didn't enjoy doubles a whole lot, partly because the team I built I thought was like, doubles is just weird, and other reasons, I guess. I was busy, but this time I'm really hyped for doubles. I spent a lot of thinking power, making my picks, what my final team vision would be, and I think for the most part it worked out really well. And it's probably the team or a team I've been the most excited about as far as like just post-draft feelings go in any season of the draft so far, which obviously we'll get into all those awesome reasons. But we have to start with our first pick, which was Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini is a tier 1. It's one of the 4 Tapus that are in the league. There's, 3 others. I went with this just because, I can't... I'll explain a lot of the reasons I picked this thing as we go on, but I thought, having like terrain control would be really cool. And I've never really given the Tapus a chance. I've always thought they just looked kind of weird, but I was like, no, I'm gonna pick one up and try to use it and see what happens. So this thing obviously has a lot of cool things about it. Being a Tapu, it has really good defenses, and water is a really good defensive type as well. So its typing is really nice. And then obviously can set up things like Misty Terrain for free, which is really cool. Which we have some strats for that in mind down the road. But next up, we rounded out our other tier 1 with Kartana, which with Tapu being on the kind of the defensive bulky side, I think Tapu has like 130 in both special defense and defense. I wanted to pick some like super hyper offensive mega threat, and I found that in the form of Kartana with a base attack stat of 181, which is wild. He also has some really good moves. He has like a pretty good coverage pool. He even has like some setup moves like Tailwind and Swords Dance, and like I don't know what else to say other than like 181 attack. And he's not crippled by anything like, a poor speed stat. His speed is like 109, I think. So it's not like Rampardos where like, yeah, he has 160 attack, but he's never gonna hit first. No, this thing is fast and it is going to devastate teams if they're not ready to take a massive hit. It also has like basically a Moxie ability, Beast Boost. So anytime he gets a kill, he gets a boost to his highest stat, which is gonna be attack. Probably, unless we're running like a Choice Scarf or something. But yeah, I think Kartana is absolutely busted, and I would be surprised if this thing didn't get 1 or 2 kills every game, and just be an absolute pain for people to prep for. On the downside of Kartana, he does have a 4 times weakness to fire, and a really horrendous special defense stat. So unlike Ferroseed, he's not going to be surviving any fire type hits ever. But I think we can work around it. And that concludes our tier 1s. Next is our tier 2. We decided to pick up our tier 2 right after our tier 1s, almost kinda. We picked up a Metagross, which I kind of solely picked up for just because like Metagross is a good Pokemon in and of himself. I didn't have any like crazy like uh, strats in mind for him. He's just Metagross is like a really good all-around Pokemon. He has priority moves. He has a really high attack and defense stat. He has decent speed. He can set up. Um, he has knockoff. He's just a really good Pokemon. Which honestly, like concludes the reasons I picked him. But the next one was a little bit more thought out, being Greninja, our fourth pick of the draft. I picked him because he has a crazy ability. He has two crazy abilities. I haven't asked Noah yet if Ash Greninja, the Battle Bond ability, will be available. But he has an ability where he transforms after getting a kill and gets some pretty nice stat increases. And his other ability, Protean, lets him get stab on any move he uses. Because it changes his type, which means we could do really weird things like become resistant to what we think we're going to be hit by, or go ghost type with Shadow Sneak and then click Explosion on our other Mon, which I don't think we'd ever want to do, but we could. He also gets one of the coolest moves in Pokemon, which only like 3 things get, in Mat Block, which is kind of like a double-sided Protect, but it's not priority, so you have to be faster. Sort of a little bit risky. You can also use it only use it the first turn of combat, I think, or the first turn he's out on the field. So that's another thing to consider. But I think having access to it is a really, like, just an awesome way to put people on the edge of their seats. Like, am I gonna go for Mat Block? Am I just gonna hit a Surf or an Ice Beam or something? You don't know. So I think Greninja is just awesome for that. Like, what am I gonna do factor. And next, we skipped rounding out our tier 2s to dip into our tier 3s, just because I didn't want to be in a situation where I didn't like any of my tier 3s, because we've been there before and it's not a lot of fun. But also, well, I guess on top of that, some of the tier 3s are like not that great. So I wanted to get them earlier rather than later. And I actually had like a pretty cool like rock core idea, which I think I'm just gonna hide them all at once. Actually, these next 2, these are all tier 3s, but it's Gigalith, Lycanroc, and Cradily, which is like a little bit of Sandstorm control. Lycanroc gets Sand Rush or whatever the ability is called, so speed is doubled, which Lycanroc almost doesn't even need because his space speed is like 109. But getting the speed boost and the special defense boost makes the entire team a lot tankier, at least within those 3 rock types, and gives me weather control. And then obviously Gigalith's really tanky. Cradily can do some really weird things, like maybe set up Leech Seeds, or I could do like a Swords Dance set on him. And then Lycanroc is just, he's got a pretty high attack stat, so that's kind of it for him. But yeah, also I will say half the reason I picked Gigalith is because my brother said he looks cool, and I was like, yeah, I think I can do something with Gigalith. So that is kind of how that came to be. But next, we just rounded out all our tier 3s from here on out. We picked Drifblim, primarily because of the Unburden ability and the seed items existing, specifically the Misty Seed, which is consumed when Misty Terrain is in effect, which our Tapu back there is going to set up. And then Drifblim immediately has a speed boost and a special defense boost, which probably isn't going to be that big of a deal in most games, because his special defense is pretty low. But Drifblim, after he has a speed boost, has a lot of cool utility and support moves like Will-O-Wisp, Memento if we think he's going to die. It gets knockoff, which isn't going to do a whole lot of damage on Drifblim, but at least it's going to get rid of items. It also gets Tailwind, which might be really important for other things on my team, like, Metagross, Greninja. I mean, everything benefits from Tailwind. There's no harm in putting it out there. Especially if it's, just Drifblim, who's not going to have a lot of offensive potential. I think it's going to be an awesome support mon. But next, we have kind of a guy to fill many roles. Our team mascot, Gallade himself. Gallade he's a tier 3, but I think he's super underrated just because he can do so much. He has a really good attack stat. He has a mediocre speed, but with me having like 3 or 4 Tailwinders on my team, I think it's a really cool way to eliminate one of his biggest weaknesses. And then, other than that, I think he's going to be hard to prep for just because we can do so much with him. Like, you can make Gallade a special defense tank. You can like choice band him and do a sweeping thing, or like Swords Dance. You can run utility, like you could even do like a support Gallade with like screens, and I think he has ally switch and helping hand, which is a really cool move. So that was, I mean, other than the mascot reason, I think Gallade will actually be a pretty good pick. But moving on to the last member, but certainly not the least important, Comfey, which I'm actually really happy lasted until the end. I didn't go like completely read into Comfey until I was at that point where I was picking it, because it was between this and Gardevoir, which I thought Gardevoir would be another cool like support kind of mon, and it'd also be kind of cool to like, hey, I drafted both Gallade and Gardevoir. That's funny, but Comfey has some really good abilities that synergize really well with Kartana, and I mean Kartana specifically. It goes well with Cradily too. But he has a ability that makes it so grass types cannot have their stats dropped, which is really awesome if someone tries to intimidate me, which I think is going to be pretty important in a lot of games. I don't know how many teams drafted Intimidate Mons, but people are going to be trying to use it for sure. So I thought Comfey is a really like awesome way to eliminate the counterplay to Kartana. And then it also has another really good ability where healing moves get priority, so that's cool. We could run that as well. And other than that, it has just a lot of good support moves, like Tailwind again. It's like a third Tailwinder on my team, I think. It gets healing moves, like I said. It gets Helping Hand as well, which I think is a pretty cool move. Just because I do have, like these bottom 3 realistically could be support mons. So I have a lot of options for who is supporting, what role they're filling. Maybe I want 2 supports, like, I could bring Drifblim and Comfey. They could be supporting in different ways based on, what the enemy team has. But yeah, that rounds out my team. I think one thing I forgot to mention when I was going through is Cradily also has Storm Drain, which will work well with like a Greninja or a Tapu Fini Surf. Yeah, that's the only thing I missed going through everything, I think. Other than that, I have nothing else to say about my team. The draft is almost finished up. I think Sir Silverhammer has left to pick his last mon. But yeah, like I said at the beginning, this is probably the favorite team I've drafted. And I'm really excited to get to play with it in, a week and a half or 2 weeks or so. But that is going to conclude my opinion and reasoning on why I picked everything. So I will see you guys in the first week of APDL Season 7. I'll catch you later.